Lord Stark, you must be thirsty.
He brought water. That detail matters more than any blade in this show. Not a threat, not a deal. A jug of water and a quiet voice in the dark, and by the time Ned Stark finishes drinking, he has already lost. He just does not know it yet. Varys does not need a sword, he needs 30 seconds of access and the right sequence of words. The cell door had not closed before Ned started doing exactly what Varys came for. This scene is not about mercy, it is about the oldest psychological operation in the world, using a man's love as the mechanism of his own destruction. To calculate the atmospheric pressure of this dungeon, we must understand what each man carries into this room before a single word passes between them. Ned Stark arrived in King's Landing as Hand of the King, the second most powerful position in the realm. He came with honor, with trust, and with a code of conduct built for a world that no longer exists. By the time Varys descends these stairs, Ned has lost his rank, his men, his freedom, and most of his leverage. He is chained to a stone floor in the black cells beneath the Red Keep, wounded, in the dark. The only things he believes he still holds are his wife's hostage, Tyrion Lannister, and the safety of his 2 daughters. Those 2 things are his entire remaining world.
Lord Stark, you must be thirsty.
Varys enters knowing all of this. He has been watching Ned since the man rode through the gates of King's Landing. He knows the wound. He knows the lever. He knows that Ned will make every decision in this conversation based not on what is good for himself, but on what he believes protects the people he loves. A man willing to die for honor is difficult to move. A man whose children are inside a castle controlled by his enemies will do almost anything asked of him. The stakes in this scene are not Ned's life. Ned's life was already spent the moment he told Cersei what he knew. The stakes are the sequence of events that follows his death, and Varys has already run the calculation. He needs Ned to confess publicly, name himself a traitor, and accept exile rather than execution. A clean, managed ending. If Ned refuses, the realm fractures on a timeline Varys cannot control. One man in chains can still break everything if he dies the wrong way.
Varys, I promise you it isn't poison. Why is it no one ever trusts the eunuch?
Before Ned raises the suspicion, Varys names it. Before the question forms in Ned's mind, the answer is already in the air. Preemption dressed as self-deprecating humor, and one of the cleanest psychological moves in the entire scene. A man who brings poison does not announce that he might have brought poison. Varys understands this. He uses the expectation of deception as a shield against the accusation of deception. He reframes Ned's reasonable caution as social prejudice rather than intelligent instinct. By the time Ned drinks, his most rational defense has been quietly reclassified as bias. Preemptive disarmament. The act of naming a target's suspicion aloud, before they raise it, in order to diffuse its credibility before it can harden into resistance.
Not so much, my lord. I would save the rest if I were you. Hide it. Men have been known to die of thirst in these cells.
2 functions, 1 sentence. First, Varys establishes himself as someone who understands this place, its rhythms, its dangers, its unwritten rules. He has information Ned does not have, and he is choosing to share it, which positions him immediately as a resource. The second function is subtler. He plants mortality without issuing a threat. The reminder comes wrapped in practical advice so it registers as concern, but what it does is anchor Ned's nervous system to the most primitive level of need. When a man is acutely aware of his own thirst, he is thinking about survival at the body's level, not the mind's level. Ideological resistance softens. Ned's physiology is working for Varys before Ned's reasoning has agreed to anything.
What about my daughters?
Ned asks about his daughters before he asks about himself, before his allies, before his own survival. With that single question, he hands Varys the entire map of what he values most. Varys already knew this was coming. The answer he gives is not a report, it is a dosage. He releases information about Arya first. She escaped the castle. Even my little birds cannot find her. A relief. Then Sansa, still engaged to Joffrey, still inside the castle, still within Cersei's reach. A leash wrapped in neutral language. The relief lands first. The threat arrives second. By the time Ned has processed both, he sits in partial gratitude and partial terror, which is exactly the emotional position Varys needs him in for what comes next. Formation sequencing. The deliberate ordering of true disclosures to produce a cumulative emotional effect in a target, not through fabrication, but through the controlled rhythm at which reality is introduced. Varys never lies in this scene. He sequences every piece of information as real. The manipulation lives in the order, never the content.
All dead, it grieves me to say. I do so hate the sight of blood.
Ned's household, his guards, the men who rode south with him from Winterfell. Gone. Varys delivers this in a single sentence followed by a performance of aesthetic sensitivity. He was in the throne room. He watched those men die. He chose not to intervene. And now he sits in the cell where their master is chained and expresses discomfort at the memory of their bodies. Varys knows exactly how this lands, and he allows it to land this way because he is advertising his own nature. Beneath the surface of the words, I am a man who survives by not bleeding for causes. I am useful to you precisely because I am not built for sacrifice. A hero cannot help you here. I can.
And would again, my lord. I was unarmed, unarmored, and surrounded by Lannister swords. When you look at me, do you see a hero?
Ned accuses Varys of watching and doing nothing. Varys does not apologize. He describes his physical reality, unarmed, unarmored, outnumbered, and then asks Ned a question that has no winning answer. If Ned says yes, you should have acted. He is demanding heroism from a lone, unarmed eunuch surrounded by enemy swords, which sounds unreasonable when stated plainly. If Ned says no, you could not have helped, then Varys has received verbal confirmation that his inaction was rational. Both answers serve Varys. Ned has no move here.
What madness led you to tell the Queen you had learned the truth about Joffrey's birth?
Now Varys moves to the wound beneath the wound. He already knows the answer. He watched Ned build toward this decision across weeks of service in King's Landing. The question is not for information. It is a scalpel, designed to force Ned to say the thing aloud in his own words so that Varys can reflect it back at precisely the right angle. Ned had the evidence. He had the power. He had the moment. And he chose to give Cersei a warning rather than move against her immediately. In a city built on betrayal where mercy is always a calculation and never a reflex, Ned chose mercy. Not because he was naive, because mercy was the only version of power that matched who he believed himself to be.
The madness of mercy. She might save her children.
Ned names it himself. He calls it madness and means it as an explanation, but the word he chose is the word Varys needed, the children. Not Cersei's power. Not Joffrey's claim. Ned warned Cersei because he could not bring himself to be the instrument of her children's deaths, even children born of treason, terroristic self-destruction. The pattern in which a person's genuine care for others becomes the mechanism of their own defeat, not because an enemy manufactured that care, but because the person's own values make certain acts of self-protection feel morally impossible. Varys did not install this pattern in Ned. It was built into him by Winterfell, by his father, by every code he was raised inside. Varys simply waited for the right moment and let Ned confess it in his own words.
It wasn't the wine that killed Robert, nor the boar. The wine slowed him down and the boar ripped him open. But it was your mercy that killed the king.
Varys does not say, you made a mistake. He says, your mercy killed the king. He takes the thing Ned considers his most essential virtue, the quality that makes him who he is, and names it as the murder weapon. Not the Lannisters, not Cersei, not the wine or the boar. Ned's own goodness. Varys needs Ned to feel the full weight of what his choices have cost, because a man carrying that weight will do something different next time. Specifically, stand before the court and say the words Varys needs him to say.
I trust you know you're a dead man, Lord Eddard.
After the guilt, the verdict. Varys does not soften it. He states it plainly, almost gently, as though naming a weather pattern rather than a death sentence. For the first half of this conversation, Varys was a source of information and an object of suspicion. The moment he says this line, he becomes something else. The only person in this dungeon treating Ned as an adult, speaking plainly about the reality Ned has been trying not to fully accept. When someone has been managing the truth, and then one person finally speaks it without flinching, there is a pull toward trusting that person, even if they helped build the cage.
The Queen can't kill me. Catelyn's a brother.
Ned reaches for the last piece of leverage he believes he has. Catelyn captured Tyrion Lannister. As long as Cersei's brother is a prisoner in the north, Ned still has a bargaining chip. He says this not as a boast. He says it as a man trying to find solid ground before he sinks entirely. Varys lets him finish.
The wrong, brother, sadly, and lost to her. Your wife has let the imp slip through her fingers.
Gone. Varys dismantles Ned's last active leverage in 11 words. Tyrion is free. The hostage strategy Ned was counting on as the floor of his negotiating position has already collapsed. And Ned did not know it until this moment. Varys knew. He waited until Ned named the hope before destroying it. Waiting until hope is voiced before taking it away produces a more complete surrender than simply delivering bad news. A man who reaches for a wall and finds nothing falls further than a man who never reached at all.
That's true. And slit my throat and be done with it.
Ned breaks. Not loudly, not dramatically. He breaks quietly, the way a man breaks when he has run every calculation and found that none of them lead anywhere. He is not begging for death. He is releasing the performance, done pretending he has options. And in this moment of complete surrender, Ned becomes more honest than he has been at any point in King's Landing. Varys has been engineering this exact moment. A man with no remaining defenses hears an offer more clearly than a man still running leverage calculations.
Not today, my lord.
3 words, the most powerful line Varys delivers in the entire scene. Not today tells Ned that Varys controls the timeline. It tells him there is still a version of events where he lives, if he cooperates. The man who brought the water jug is also the man holding the calendar of survival. All of this without a single explicit statement of power, no threat spoken, no promise made. Just a door left fractionally open in a room with no other exits.
Tell me something, Varys. Who do you truly serve?
Ned asks because he is trying to find the frame. After everything heard in this cell, he still needs to classify Varys before deciding what to do next. He cannot simply accept ambiguity and act inside it. He needs to know if Varys is a villain or an ally. And this compulsion toward moral clarity is the final expression of the wound that has been running the entire scene. Ned Stark is not stupid. He understands something is wrong, but he was built by a world that had clear categories: honorable men and dishonorable ones, allies and enemies. King's Landing has no use for those categories. The question itself reveals the limit that got him here. The inability to act without first establishing a moral classification of the other party. A need for categorical certainty that renders a person paralyzed in environments built on deliberate ambiguity.
The realm, my lord. Someone must.
Varys does not hesitate. He does not qualify. He states it with a stillness that is more unsettling than any elaboration would be. The realm, not the king, not the queen, not any house or flag or family. The abstract, shapeless thing that everyone claims to serve and no one can hold in their hands. The second sentence does what the first one cannot. Someone must. It implies that no one else is doing it. That Varys is alone in this, The only person in the entire machinery of Westeros operating at this level of clarity and cost. The line is either the truest thing spoken in the Black Cells that night, or the most perfect cover ever designed for a hidden agenda. Varys built it to work either way. But here is what the show never told you. In the final pages of A Dance with Dragons, Varys stands over the dying body of Kavan Lannister, a man he has just had shot with a crossbow bolt. And he explains himself, not to a king, not to a council, to a dying man who cannot repeat what he hears. He reveals that every move he has made, every betrayal, every manipulation, every death he allowed or arranged, has been in service of placing one specific boy on the Iron Throne. A boy named Aegon, a hidden Targaryen heir that Varys has been raising in secret for decades. The realm was never the abstraction he described in the Black Cells. The realm was always a particular ruler, a particular bloodline, a particular outcome Varys decided on before Ned Stark ever left Winterfell. The answer Varys gave Ned in that dungeon, "The realm, my lord, someone must," was not a lie and not the truth. It was a frame, and Ned never had enough information to see it. When someone sequences information, instead of delivering it whole, the sequencing itself is the operation. In any high-stakes conversation, a negotiation, a severance, a relationship ending, whoever controls the order in which information is received controls the emotional state of the person making the decision. The protection against this is simple and almost never used. Ask for everything at once before responding to any of it. Someone genuinely informing another person will not resist that request. Someone managing them will always have a reason why the timing matters. Varys walked into that cell with water and walked out with Ned Stark's cooperation. No threats, no torture, no deal written anywhere. Just a sequence of true statements delivered in the right order to a man whose love for his daughters had already done most of the work. Ned was not broken by his enemies. He was broken by his own values, and Varys never once had to pretend those values were wrong. He just let them run until they ran Ned into the ground. The question this scene leaves open has no clean answer. If Varys genuinely served the realm, then everything he did to Ned was justified by the outcome he was working toward. But if the realm was always cover for a specific agenda, then Ned Stark was manipulated into compliance by a man who believed his own propaganda, which is its own category of danger entirely. Was Varys the most honest manipulator in Westeros, or the most dangerous kind of true believer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next